we previously had to do number 1 on this assignment for homework. For the direct variation homework, I also wanted you to do numbers 2 and 3 because we already did number 1. So we are trying to find the point on the unit circle that is where the same angle terminates that ends at the point -1, 2. Okay, so we can do our little rough sketch. The point -1, 2 is somewhere up here. But really I have, so that's like more of a unit oval. But so I want to find this point right here. So I'm not going to go through and draw this picture every time, but what we do need to remember is that of this little baby right triangle in here, this is x and this is y, and the hypotenuse is 1. And if I look in this big triangle, this length is going to be 1 and this one's going to be 2. I need to find out the hypotenuse. So if I do my Pythagorean theorem, that's going to be 1 squared plus 2 squared is equal to my big hypotenuse squared. So that's 1 plus 4, or 5. So h, really when you solve this, you should get plus or minus the square root, but h is a length, and length can only be positive. So for this question, I only care about the positive square root. So that's this big length right here. So when I set up my proportion using my big triangle and my little triangle to find x and y, I've got x over 1, so base over base, is equal to my hypotenuse. The hypotenuse of the little triangle is 1, and the hypotenuse of my big triangle we just found out was the square root of 5. So then I can cross multiply. Divide both sides by the square root of 5. Okay, now there are 2 things that we need to be aware of. Okay, now for starters, notice that while the length of this base was positive 1, because length is always positive, my point was a negative because I'm in quadrant 2. And so this point on my unit circle is also in quadrant 2, so I need to make this sucker negative. Okay, the other thing is we just learned how to rationalize, and I can definitely rationalize this because it has a radical in the bottom. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5. And when I do that, I get negative the square root of 5 over 5 is equal to x. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to set up a proportion for y. I'll do that down here. Okay, I know that I want y, and in my big triangle, y is 2. And we always end up using the hypotenuse, so 1 over the square root of 5. Cross multiply. Divide. Okay, now here, I'm in quadrant 2, so it's okay that my y is positive. I don't need to change my sign, but I do need to rationalize still. Okay, rationalizing is like simplifying. We always do it. So I do get 2 times the square root of 5 over 5 as my y value. So your final answer, because our final answer, they're looking for a point, is going to be negative the square root of 5 over 5, my x value, and then my y value. Done. So, okay, so notice the unit circle stuff is kind of using that rationalizing stuff that we used, and that's going to happen a lot. Those things are going to go together. Okay, pause this if you need to because I'm kind of running out of room, so I'm going to erase this so I can do number 3. Okay, big circle. Whoop. Nope, didn't work. That worked. Nope. Nope. My circles are just not working today. Okay. So now let's do number 3. Okay. And it might help to do a little rough sketch. So I'm at positive 8, negative 15. So I'm somewhere down here. Okay. Remember, your unit circle is right here, so I'm looking for this point right here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I need to find this big hypotenuse, all right, because I know that this is 8, and I know that this length is 15. I need to find my hypotenuse, so I'll use the Pythagorean theorem. And it's my choice to use h squared. If you want to use c squared, that's totally up to you. I cannot remember what 15 squared is. 225. Duh. And that's 64. Take the square root, 17. Really, you get plus or minus 17, but this is length, so I only care about the positive. Ooh, that is not a 7. There we go. So now I can set up my proportions, okay? I'm looking for the x value of my baby triangle. I know the x value of my big triangle is 8. The hypotenuse of my baby triangle is always 1. And I know that the hypotenuse of my big triangle is 17. Cross multiply. So there's my x value. And I don't need to worry about making that positive or negative because I'm in quadrant 4 and x's are positive. Do the same proportions to find my y. The y value of my big triangle is 15. Cross multiply. But if I look, I'm in quadrant 4 and y's are negative in quadrant 4, so I got to make sure that's a negative. So your final answer is the point 8/17, negative 15/17. All right, short and sweet.